us who swore you in as special prosecutor?
As I said, I know I took the oath of office. I don't recall who swore me in. What I can share with you.
I don't know, sir. Call me naive, but that's a milestone career move for you that you get to do this, and you don't remember the circumstances. It was a political hit job, timed perfectly against the President of the United States. Sir, in the Florida case, in the records case, what happened ultimately in that case?
What happened ultimately in the case?
Yeah, the Mar-a-Lago records case.
I'm going to answer because I don't think this is covered by Judge Cannon's order.
You like to read, sir? You like to read?
I do.
Do you read 70 pages a minute?
I do not.
I mean, that would be remarkable. So how do you prepare for a trial? Smith, when was the initial indictment issued on President Trump? August 1st, 2023, does that sound about right?
That's in the election case. That's correct.
Correct. And on that election case, after that, you asked for a trial date when?
I don't recall as I sit here right now.
January 2024, does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, so after the indictment, you in August, you asked for a January trial date. That's like 5 months? 5 months? How much evidence did you have? Millions of pages?
As I sit here right now, I don't recall the exact
I think in your
size.
testimony, they talked about a number, 13 million pages. Is that a ballpark accurate number?
I think that was the question asked of me, and as I sit here, I don't have an accurate number for it.
So let's just assume that that's true, right? Because you had a bunch of stuff. You had $50 million that you blew through the Treasury on a trial that went nowhere. How many pages per day is that? 100,000? Does that sound about right? What if we break that down per hour? It's 4,166 per minute is 70 pages. You like to read, sir? You like to read?
I do.
Do you read 70 pages a minute?
I do not.
I mean, that would be remarkable. So how do you prepare for a trial in 5 months if you're asking the defense counsel to read 70 pages a minute? How do you do that and prepare a defense and look at all the witness testimony and video evidence that you supposedly had? How do you do that? You know what's shocking to me, and I think that one of the most egregious aspects of this case, Mr. Smith, is that if you get a traffic ticket in Washington, D.C., you're not going to trial in 5 months. But you want the president, the former president of the United States, to have a trial date with 13 million pages of documents within 5 months. I think that's ridiculous. And I think that speaks exactly to what we talk about when we examine not only your record, but the things in this case that are deeply troubling. That this was not the pursuit of facts and law and letting the judge and the jury decide. That this was an exercise in it was a political hit job, timed perfectly against the President of the United States. Sir, in the Florida case, in the records case, what happened ultimately in that case?
What happened ultimately in the case?
Yeah, the Mar-a-Lago records case.
I'm going to answer because I don't think this is covered by Judge Cannon's order. We moved to dismiss that case pursuant to Justice Department policy.
No, the records case in Florida.
Against Donald Trump.
The records case in Mar-a-Lago, were you
I'm
ruled to be, what was the ruling in that?
That was Judge Cannon's ruling, and she ruled my appointment unlawful, and we sought to appeal that, and that appeal was pending at the time that we dismissed the cases.
So from the very beginning, were you ever confirmed by the United States Senate?
I have never been confirmed by the United States Senate. I will say that the history supporting my appointment is over 100 years old. Other special counsels.
But isn't there a
have been
statute on the
approved.
appointment? I mean, you have to be confirmed by the Senate. So I think that's kind of interesting. But I think the point is, from the very beginning, on the documents case and others, you weren't even lawfully appointed, and that's why Judge Cannon ruled the way that she did. And from the beginning, we talk about that you followed Department of Justice policy, you followed the facts, you followed the law, you followed the Constitution. That's what you have said all throughout this day, parroted by the Democrats that you have done nothing wrong. But from the very beginning, you weren't even lawfully, and you can't even recall who swore you in. So as we sit here today, based on your testimony in the transcribed interview, can you tell us who swore you in as special prosecutor?
As I said, I know I took the oath of office. I don't recall who swore me in. What I can share with you.
I don't know, sir. Call me naive, but that's a milestone career move for you that you get to do this, and you don't remember the circumstances. I just find that a little bit odd. But here's the thing, and I'm going to wrap up quick. You're unconstitutionally appointed. You breached the 60-day rule, releasing this very partisan attack against the president right before the election. You tampered with evidence in the Mar-a-Lago case that you admitted to in court filings. You subpoenaed members of Congress and their phone records in violation of the Constitution, of current statutes. You didn't even let the court know that these were members of Congress. How are we to assume otherwise that this wasn't political? Because it absolutely was, sir.
Following his closed-door deposition late last year, former Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith testified in a highly anticipated House Judiciary Committee hearing, forcefully defending his investigations into Donald Trump and declaring he developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt of criminal activity. The high-stakes public proceeding immediately split down intense partisan lines, as Republican lawmakers aggressively attacked his appointment and methods, while Donald Trump posted live on Truth Social that Smith was being decimated and should face prosecution. Democrats staunchly defended Smith's multi-decade career as a nonpartisan pursuit of the rule of law, highlighting his testimony that the former president was the most culpable and most responsible person in the conspiracy. A particularly viral moment erupted during a sharp exchange with South Carolina Republican Representative Russell Fry, who repeatedly pressed the former prosecutor on whether he could even recall the basic administrative details of his own career-defining appointment. During the intense questioning, Representative Fry heavily criticized the tight timeline of the federal election interference case, noting that Smith's team pushed for a January 2024 trial date a mere 5 months after the initial August 2023 indictment. Fry argued that asking defense counsel to review upwards of 13 million pages of discovery documents within that window was a procedural absurdity, mathematically requiring them to digest thousands of pages an hour. Smith defended the integrity of his team's trial preparations, stating they were ready, willing, and able to go to trial, but explained he did not recall specific numbers off the top of his head while sitting at the witness table. Fry characterized the rapid push to trial as an organized political hit shop explicitly engineered to damage the former president ahead of the 2024 election. The confrontation grew even sharper when the discussion pivoted to the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, which was ultimately dismissed by U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon. When asked about the ultimate outcome of the Florida prosecution, Smith noted that his office had moved to dismiss the cases in accordance with broader Justice Department policy regarding a sitting president, but explicitly reminded the panel that Judge Cannon's initial ruling declaring his appointment unlawful was being formally appealed before the wider dismissal took effect. Fry seized on the ruling to argue that Smith was never constitutionally appointed or Senate confirmed, claiming the entire investigation was structurally flawed from its inception. The hearing reached a bizarre climax, as Fry repeatedly interrogated Smith regarding who physically administered his oath of office when he took the job. Smith maintained that while he distinctly remembered taking the official oath, he honestly could not recall the specific individual who swore him in. Fry slammed the response, calling it highly unusual that a prosecutor wouldn't remember the exact circumstances of a milestone, historic career move. Despite the intense Republican pushback and targeted social media posts from Trump, Smith remained resolute under oath, explicitly telling the committee, "I will not be intimidated." The exchange highlighted a deeply bitter institutional standoff on Capitol Hill, with Republicans pointing to the memory lapse as evidence of a sloppy, partisan operation, and Democrats blasting the line of questioning as a hollow attempt to distract from the severe gravity of the evidence uncovered during the investigation. Ultimately, this high-profile confrontation underscores a widening structural divide in Washington over legal accountability, executive authority, and the future independence of the Department of Justice.